Hello, welcome to the Studio Talks. My name's James Swift.
I'm Josh McNorton, and our guest today is...
My name's Stuart Brown, and I worked at the studio between 2010 when it opened and 2015.
Hey Stu, you okay?
Not too bad, thanks. Good to see you again. It's been a long time.
And you? Yeah, I know. How are you doing in the lockdown?
I'm doing all right. It's up and down time. I've actually spent loads of time setting up my own home studio for the first time. Like, literally built furniture out of MDF and stuff to try and make it like a bit more like a studio. Because for years and years, wherever I've lived, I've always had a room where I've had music gear. It's just like in a pile. I've had maybe a computer desk, but it's just been like a total mess. Like, I've got loads of guitar effects pedals and all that kind of stuff, and it's never been organised. So I've been painting, and I've even put up like vinyl stuff on the walls. I've got like records that I like and CDs that I like.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
Things like that. So when I'm doing that kind of thing, it's okay. But I mean, as you guys know, once you start getting into trying to do your own home recording, it's just never ending in terms of gear and setting things up, moving things about. So it can be frustrating. Like at the moment, I'm trying to get. I've got some analog guitar effects pedals. I've got like a delay pedal and a couple of fuzzes, and I've got a digital effects pedal, and I've got my amp, which is a Boss Katana, one of those modelling amps, and that's got stuff in it as well.
Oh, nice.
And I've even set up, I've got one of my old iPads to set up to make that a looper, because I couldn't afford to get a full looper. But I've got this iPad from 2012, but it runs this looper software fine. It's called Loopy. And I've got it in this little Alesis dock. And just trying to get all that to work and not like have loads of hum and sound like terrible is really hard, especially on a budget.
Oh, excellent.
So that kind of stuff normally keeps me busy, but I think I'm with everyone else. I'm like losing track of the days and times sometimes. And
yeah, I keep mentioning that every podcast. Like, I just forget the days until I check my phone. I'm like, oh, it's that day.
Yeah,
it's funny because in the first episode we say like we're going to keep on track and everything, and then like slowly as it dissolves, it just becomes what day is it?
Yeah, well, like my day job is a college lecturer now, so I teach in a college in South Cheshire. Like a lot of the students who I'm speaking to, they've become completely nocturnal. Like they were late sleepers before, but I've got one student who's going to bed at 7 a.m. and waking up at 7 at night.
Oh wow!
So they've just completely just gone the other way for the cycle, and they just spend like 12 hours playing Apex Legends and then go back to sleep. So it can really affect some people because it's like without like a routine to force you to do something, you can really fall apart, can't you? So
definitely,
yeah.
I've been trying to keep to a routine where I go to bed at 12 and wake up at 9:30, 10 o'clock.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's about what I'm doing too.
Yeah, I feel like if I just lost my routine, I'd just fall into like just being like I was 8 years ago, where I was like getting in, like I'd go to bed at like 5 a.m. and then wake up at like 3 p.m, and it's just not a good way to.
Yeah, well, like, and the things it's easiest to do that when you're younger. Like I'm old now. I'm 41, so like I've got a 5-year-old son, so he wakes up at 7:30. So if I have a late night, doesn't matter. He wakes me up. He jumps on my head. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, exactly.
So I've just got to deal with it.
What's your history with the studio and how did you get involved? Would you like to talk a bit about AAA?
Yeah. So I first got involved, like I say, I was there when the studio opened, but I got the job in late 2009. I was already working in Widnes and Runcorn. I was a carer support worker, so I worked in mental health. I'd already done a degree in music, and I'd done a bit of a master's degree in music studies in Liverpool. But when I graduated, like I was in bands and stuff, but just never really took off. I was doing like a lot of covers bands gigs, and I was doing some sound recording. So I was keeping busy, and I was doing producing and going to studios for other bands and stuff like that. But it wasn't like a pro career. So I always had other jobs. So I worked in care. I worked with people with autism, all that kind of stuff. And it ended up just being from like hourly paid work. I ended up being a carer support worker because I ended up getting some experience. So I always find like in life, it's kind of like you go down these weird alleyways that you don't expect. And so I'd done this carer work where I worked with parents and relatives of people who had someone in their family with serious mental health issues like personality disorder or schizophrenia or bipolar. So I worked with Runcorn Council and I worked with a charity called Making Space. And when I was doing that, I did a teaching qualification at the same time because I was delivering carer training. And so then I realised I could teach in colleges. And so I started like doing lessons and stuff like that. And I was getting fed up with the carer work. I wanted to do something more music related. And I can't even remember how I came across the studio. God knows how I came across it. It must have just been like some local news article or something like that. And I saw the job advert. So I responded, and it was Jackie Florek and Bill Leach and Stuart. I always forget his surname, the other Stuart, who was involved at the studio. They interviewed me in Widnes Library, like in November 2009, and I got the job. Totally excited, over the moon about it. Then I was going to Jackie's house for a few months, and it was me and these 3 other workers. And it was me, Amy, Steve, and Pete. And we all met up every week, and we were talking about how we were going to set the place up, what we wanted it to be. We had a little bit of a budget to buy some instruments. We had to learn how to use the lights. I'd never used lights before, so I had to learn how to. I ended up being the lighting person somehow. I don't know how that happened, but that's what happens, isn't it? You get given a job and you get used to it. And so we did that, and then we were just thrown into it, and it was very interesting because it was having a boss who just kind of, on the one hand, they had a lot of responsibilities because when we were running it between 2010 and 2015, it was a fixed grant from the lottery for 5 years. So we were there with salaries to work 20 hours a week. So we had all these things, like all this paperwork to keep up to date with. So Jackie had to do this massive report every year. But at the same time, she wanted it to be that's why she called the company Run It Access All Areas Loose. She wanted to keep it as loose as possible because she's just like, I want the musicians to run it themselves, and I want it to feel like it's organic and in the community. But at the same time, she wanted a good mix of people. So she picked me, I think, because I'd linked into health and all that kind of stuff. So I knew a little bit of that terminology. Pete was on the radio. Amy was an independent artist in Manchester. So I think Jackie picked her because she was interesting for those reasons. And Steve was like independent video artist and in avant-garde bands and a really good performer. And she knew him because her son Jake had played gigs with him and they'd produced for each other and stuff. So she was trying to get a balance of people. So I think I was the squarest of the bunch, but that was to fulfill a role. Do you know what I mean? It's like to get a balance of people. And so as people came and went with Loose, Jackie was always focused on keeping that balance. So that's why when Amy moved on, that's why Genevieve came in. And I think that's why when Tony was there for a while, like he brought a different set of skills to the studio and stuff. And that's what Jackie always bore in mind. It was amazing, actually, and some of it was really hard work. Some of it was really grueling. Sometimes it was long periods of feeling really bored, or just really challenging because, like, some of the bands, you'd be trying to get them to do interesting stuff, get them in and out the studio, making sure that we got new bands in at gigs and stuff like that. Yeah, and it kind of gave me a lot of a gateway into where I am today, really. So doing those years, it really helped me prepare in terms of going into my job now. So I'm doing further education, but I was teaching music technology in Liverpool at the same time for like 4 or 5 years. And then I've moved around a couple of times since. I live in Chester these days and teaching crew for some reason. But that's the way these things work. But like all those skills that I learned, kind of a lot of it was down to the studio and going into room number 4 and room number 6. Is it room 4 and 6? I'm trying to remember.
8.
Was it 8?
Yeah, sorry.
4 and 6 were day rehearsal room. And we were using that Mackie desk. I don't know if you've still got that. And just an old iMac and just caning it. And like just lots of really good memories of doing fascinating demos.
It really was like that time. It was a very like a different person would come in every day, a weekend, and come out with it. It was really good to see many people come out with the ideas.
It was nice. It was nice to make stuff that had no end other than that person being really creative. That's what I really enjoyed about it. I understand like when people get into music, like they're like, oh, we want to be big or we want to do loads of gigs or all this kind of thing. But my interest really was like I loved working with Dylan Monticelli. I thought he was really fascinating and just really interesting take on music. He really knew what he wanted.
Definitely.
And so I found it a lot of fun to work with him. I found it a lot of fun to work with Carl Davis. We did the song about, he called it A Prayer for Witness.
Prayer for Witness, yeah.
I was talking to Steve about it a couple of weeks ago around the anniversary time, and we were just like, it's one of the most amazing things I've ever done. He's just absolutely fearless. And we did another, were you on it, James? We did a song called Double War Double War.
I
It
can't
was
remember.
2014, and it was like to commemorate 100 years.
Oh
since the
yes,
start
I
of the First World
remember. I remember I helped. I wasn't on the CD, but I helped like make it. But
Yeah.
I know, like, I spent a good couple months being like, I need to write a song for this. I need to write a song, and I just couldn't come out with anything.
So I think it was
Yeah.
in 12. It was a full album in the end with all
Yeah,
different
yeah.
kinds of
I
people.
literally have it right there.
And yeah, Carl's Double War. It was just. I don't know how to describe it. You've got to listen to it.
Yeah.
I think I learned a lot about that from Stephen and Amy as well. So we talked about outsider art as a thing, and making sure people could express their life through music. So it was just a different take. Like a lot of people who went there were on the push of it should be gigs and making people gig ready and in the industry. And we got a lot of that stuff from the lottery as well, things to fulfill. But the things that interested me the most were the really kind of left field arty thing.
Yeah. What inspired you to pursue music?
I think I was about 12, and maybe a little bit before. The first music I remember listening to and really enjoying was when I was about 7 or 8, and my mum got me a cassette tape of music from the 1950s, and it had "When a Man Loves a Woman" by Percy Sledge on it, and it had just these late 1950s R&B things. And that was the first time I remember liking music. So I really liked R&B from that time. And then for my 10th birthday, I think it was, she got me again, so this is all tapes until the mid-90s. She got me a tape of the soundtrack from the John Lennon film, Imagine. And I listened to Strawberry Fields. So I was 10, just going, and the backwards bit at the end and stuff, I was like, what the hell is this? Like, really fascinated by it. Because, like, all my mates at school were listening to pop at the time. So at that time, there was a band called New Kids on the Block, who were kind of like the Take That or Backstreet Boys of their day, if you like. And so I was listening to that. Then when I was 12, 13, my auntie Linda, she just gave me all of her John Lennon records. And so it was John Lennon records really that got me interested in music, because the ones I was listening to, she gave, like, I was 12, 13, and I was listening to Cold Turkey, which is about heroin addiction. And I was listening to Working Class Hero, which is just like a communist anthem and stuff like that. And just listened to stuff, and she started giving me guitar lessons, and she taught me some of those songs, and T-Rex and all that kind of stuff. So it was a family thing, really.
Oh, excellent.
It got me into it. And I kind of played guitar in the background. I really seriously got into the guitar when I was about 15, 16. When I was in my first band. I was in my first band when I was 16, I think. It's year 11. And that was, God, we all argued all the time. It was horrible. It was terrible. But it was like when I first started playing guitar. And then I got into another band with a lad called Day and a lad called Mark. I went to school in Ellesmere Port. Went to the Catholic school there called Ellesmere Port Catholic High School. And we rehearsed in a village hall called Hope Farm Hall. And I think it cost us £7 or £8 an hour to rent it out. And so we used to take all our gear to there and rehearse there and practice. And that's when I started really getting into it. And I really like guitar effects. So I started buying pedals and all that kind of thing. Funny thing is, like, when I first got into music and pedals, I've just bought today the first pedal I ever had again. I don't know what happened to it, whether I lost it or I threw it away or I sold it. But I bought this little Zoom effects pedal called a Zoom 505.
Right, okay.
And like, it gets loads of hate on the internet, the most awful effects pedal of all time. But I bought it for nostalgic reasons. But also, do either of you two ever? There's a channel on YouTube called JHS, and it's this pedal guy.
No.
So his name's Josh Scott, and he makes boutique pedals, basically. And he did this whole thing about digital versus analog pedals, and it's a big thing in the guitar playing world about, oh, you got to have analog pedals, you got to have this, you got to have that. And he did this little thing where he said, I've got this amazing pedal, I'm not telling you what it is. And it was this Zoom, and everyone was saying it's awesome. And then he showed it up at the end, and he was like, this is the cheapest, crappiest thing you can buy for £30.
Oh, wow.
And you all loved it, but usually in the videos you say that you hate it. And it was just to prove that, like, a lot of that snobbery about gear just is nonsense.
Exactly, yeah.
Vessels in sympathy pulse across my eyes. I could see the maddening grin of the girl from the pieces of your mind. Maybe I could see an army. Maybe I could be a dog. I felt a black sharp pointed hand pushing me down. I fell through the cold dirty bed where I lay, still asleep, still awake. Sleep that draws the nightmares near. Sleep that locks the head in fear. Sleep that sees the signs. Maybe I could see an army. Maybe I could be a dog. Maybe they tear me apart. Sleep paralysis, sleep paralysis, sleep paralysis, sleep paralysis, sleep paralysis, sleep paralysis, paralysis, sleep paralysis, sleep paralysis. The molecules of your brain being of incestuous of nature with your conscious, betraying your fears in a laced down hammer gown, making them flesh, making soft flesh, making cold flesh, making all flesh, making full flesh, making all flesh, making full flesh, making mind sleep that draws the nightmares near. Sleep that locks the head in fear. basically, I've always written stuff that's ended up being like prog, stuff that's in like 4 or 5 parts, but I could never really admit to it. I'd always try and fit them into songs that were like 4.5 minutes. And it was only later on that I realised I was writing these big instrumental things.
How do you write your songs, like you personally?
It's different. It depends. Like, I've got no one set method. Like, it might be that I come up with something in my head whilst a computer's on, and I record that and like play something in on a keyboard. Or it might be just I think of a melody and I've got an app on my phone and I just record, I just hum into the phone and try and remember for later. Like, I've got hundreds of those that I've not even ever listened to, where it's just trying to generate a memory of what it is. That's another way I do it. Sometimes I think of words first and I want to do it around a concept. So like, I think I want to write a song about that. And then like, I got that from a guy called Elvis Costello, songwriter Elvis Costello. He does mind maps.
Right, okay.
Songs. So he like puts the name of the song in the middle and he puts like what things he wants in it.
Oh,
that's pretty interesting.
So I just try different things, but normally it's like I'll come up with something that's like 1 or 2 bars long. So it'll just be some notes, or it'll be a few guitar chords, or it'll be like a guitar effect I've stumbled on, so I'll jam around on that. Like, I really love fuzz as a guitar effect these days, so I try and come up with this really horrible, nasty, gnarly sound, and it'll just be like 2 seconds of that, and then I'll try and attach a beat to it or something. So it's changed over the years. Like, it used to be more traditional singer-songwriter, but these days it's just like, I think the most important thing is get something down as soon as you think of it. And whether that's open up a notes app on your phone and typing out like 2 lines of lyrics so you remember what it is, or like, so if I look in my phone now, let's see the last thing that I did. It's just funny because it's in the midst shopping lists. At the same time.
Same, to be honest with you. I've just been looking at mine.
Oh, here we go. He's gone but not forgotten. I wrote this in Home Bargains. I was like literally like stood next to the shampoo or something. And it was about like, this happens when you're old, unfortunately, but you talk about when you're younger. So I called it He's Gone But Not Forgotten. It says, where is the boy who sniffed spearmints? Where is the lad who drank himself to distraction? Where is he when I'm in bed at 10 p.m? Where are the fumbles with club shot affairs? Where is the bloke who said no Parazan? The guy with the eyes wide on the Milky Way, is he still here? The guy who was an over-earnest preacher, is he still here? The agoraphobic obsessive, is he still here? So I was trying to remember what I was like when I was 20. Like now, and like the differences, and am I happy with them or not? And I've got no choice. So like, I'll get like stuff like that where I do it as words, because I am quite into like poetry and stuff. Not that I could tell you a lot about poets, but I'm quite into writing my own poetry. But so I'll do that, but then so it just really depends.
I've got into a habit of writing songs twice. So like I'll so I'll have a melody in my head, but I want words to sing. So I'll sing the first thing that comes in my head, like words, and then write that down, and then come back to it and write actually more specific, completely different lyrics.
That's something I've wanted to do, but never really, like, not that... I remember seeing this interview with Mick Jagger, and they asked him about how he writes songs, and he said, as he starts humming something, and he just writes whatever words come into his head, and he says it can be total nonsense.
Yeah.
Stream of consciousness, it's just, and the cat got the flowers from the zoo. Blah, blah.
Yeah, same.
Coffee cup had a green logo on it, and then I threw my laptop on the floor, and then I smashed an egg on my head. And it's just like, just so you can get it. You can get like the shape of the rhythms of the words in your head, and then trying to fit new words into those rhythms.
I've done that the past couple of songs, where I've got 2 sets of lyrics essentially.
Yeah, the thing I find out with words is I always try and put like different words in to what people normally use. So like I try and use like loads of nouns. Like I want to hear words like microwave and Vileda super mop in songs. I mean, I want to hear like specific stuff rather than I love you, I miss you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I wish I was rich or whatever. Like, but if it's really hard, like there's some artists I really like, and you can tell that they've struggled. Like I used to listen to Manic Street Preachers a lot. I don't so much these days, but you can tell they're trying to cram a word into a line in a song. And it's like it doesn't quite fit, but you appreciate that they've tried to do it. And there's some songwriters who do it really well, like Joni Mitchell or Bjork but then other ones who struggle. What do you do, Josh? Are you a lyricist? Do you write music?
I love music. Like it's like, but I don't really. I've tried writing songs and that, but I'm more into like hip hop, like and like rapping, all that.
Yeah.
But it's just I'm very dyslexic, so it's like I write something down and it just makes no sense when I'm reading it back. But I'm getting into DJing at the moment. Like I'm really enjoying that. Got myself a pair of decks before lockdown came.
Yeah. It was someone who I used to work with who had very severe dyslexia, and what he used to do was, I can't remember the name of the app on his phone. It was some kind of audio editing app, and he used to sing the line into the phone, and then he'd move the lines around, the audio files around, and construct his lyrics that way.
Oh, that's
so
really cool.
So instead of writing it down, you can just say it or sing, and then just move it around with other bits, and then move it that
really
way.
Cool.
There's a free one called, I think it's called Hukai or something like that. Hukai Audio Editor or something like that. Are you on whatchamacallit? Are you on Android phones or Apple phones? Android. There's one called BandLab, and it's free, and you can just record into that, like I said, and then you could just move around the lines, and that might be a good way of doing something if you find it hard to type. Because I remember with this lad I was working with, he tried to do it with voice recognition, but he'd always get his words wrong and mixed up, especially for specialist stuff.
Yeah, I'll look into that, because I do actually want to try, hopefully, get into writing music.
Yeah. Well, it's just anything. Just anything, don't worry about it, and just, even if it's short, and like, have no expectations added to it as well. That's what I always advise. Like, so what if no one ever hears it? So what if it turns out that you spend 10 hours doing it, it's crap? It's kind of like, what else are you going to do? It's like,
true.
I watched kind of 6 seasons of Brooklyn Nine-Nine back to back a few weeks ago, and it's like, things I could have done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you're always like that. It's like, it's just, I don't know. I just think it's probably time well spent. So don't worry about finding your groove, even if it's like 5-second long loops of madness. Like Timbaland, he did a. I don't know if you're into Timbaland at all, Josh, but he did a masterclass. These masterclasses that you see advertised on YouTube.
Yeah.
And he talks about how he designs beats, and he does them with his mouth. So he'll just, the one he does is, he starts off by going, I thought of a melody idea, and he goes, and he just sings it in, and then he'll put the beat on top, and he'll go, then he'll do the kick, and he just does it all with his mouth, and then when he's done that, that's when he tries to recreate it afterwards.
Pretty interesting.
It's that good to watch, and like, he's not really someone who I followed, but like, I saw that and I was just like, that's really good. And you can see like how much fun he has when he's doing it.
That's all it's about, really, and at the end of the day,
definitely
having fun with it.
Like, there's nothing, like, because I'm a guitarist, there's nothing I love better than like having loads of fuzz and delay. And like, you get this face, this really serious, like face, and it could be like, everyone else might hate it, but you're loving it. It's kind of, it's just this. It's this amazing sensory experience of just enjoying it.
Yeah, I've noticed, like, if I'm listening to like a heavy, like drum and bass track, and like the bass just takes over, and you're just like doing these mad faces, just walking down the street. Yeah. People probably looking at me like I'm a weirdo, but I'm like, the bass just takes over.
Yeah. And I think not enough people think about music that way, especially when they start making music. I think some of those people are the most successful people as well, because they just rather than thinking, I want to earn $100,000 a year doing this, they're making that mental gurning face.
So Stu, how can people find you online and the stuff that you do?
They can't really at the moment. I've not been publishing really. I did some stuff recently. It's kind of like pop country stuff. It was for a mate of mine who moved to Australia about 15 years ago, but he kept in touch with me. And it's called Jensen and the Continentals. Jensen spelled Jensen. And he was just sending me some sessions on Dropbox, asking me to play guitar for him. And he released this album called At the Beach. So I'm on that. I'm playing guitar on quite a few of those tracks. So that's something you can listen to. And again, that was like with old friends, and it's not something I normally do as a genre. Like when you listen to it, you can tell it's like influenced by things like, I don't know, Bruce Springsteen and stuff. It was about friends more than anything.
Oh, nice.
So I'm on a few of them. I think we should, like, the stuff I'm sending you, stuff that's in the works. So it'll be called Anti-Gravity League.
Okay.
And I suppose if you like, again, if our stuff sounds anywhere near any of this stuff or not, who knows? But the things that we really like, it's me and a lad called Dale. We really like Tycho, who are like instrumental indie band. We really like Bjork. We really like Mogwai. And an act called Uncle as well. So it's like kind of like experimental-ish indie pop, I suppose is the way you describe it, or maybe a bit shoegazy. That's the kind of stuff that floats me boat these days.
Oh, excellent.
So Jensen and the Continentals, and then maybe sometime in the future, Anti-Gravity League.
Okay, cool. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today.
No worries. Anytime.
I'll see you soon. Bye.